Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. In this edition, we'll be talking about Tottenham's 1-0 home defeat against the Premier League champions, Manchester City. We are currently live on YouTube, on X, Facebook and Twitch, so please do get involved. Let us know how you are feeling right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan and let us know what you made of tonight's defeat. Spurs are now 13th in the Premier League table, 33 points from 27 games. We are 14 points away from the top four and 16 points away from the bottom three. That is the 14th league defeat of this Premier League season. Now, before we get into things, let me introduce the guest this evening. We have got channel regular and actor Ricky Norwood back with us. Ricky, how are you?
I'm good, my friend. Good to be back on with you, beautiful gentlemen, and good to be with the viewers and listeners around the world. Another defeat tonight. We'll get in, but I'm just happy to be breaking down with you, gents. So let's have it. Let's have it.
Ricky, as per usual, great to have you here. Thank you so much for being a guest every single week, talking about our very indifferent season. Also back with us is channel regular Craig Dearman. Craig, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all good. I just realised my moustache makes me look like a Mexican. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. It is supposed to be the same length. That's yeah. No, I'm all good. I'm all good. Yeah, shame we couldn't get 4 wins in a row, but yeah. Back to Tottenham, haven't we?
And also back with us, the legend, Mr. Richard Whitehead, MBE. Richard, I always joke and say you bring the trophies and the medals, but you really do. You are getting medal after medal. Every single time I check Instagram, you are in a different country doing another marathon. Tell us all about it.
Yes, this year I started the year 80 marathons in 21 years. So challenged myself to get my 100 in 10 months. So that's 20 marathons in 10 months all over the world. So visiting places that I've run before and hopefully just spreading the love. And what I've been silly enough doing though, Chris and boys, is I've been running them too fast. So I've been coming home knackered, like 2 hours 47, my first one, 3:08 and 2:46 just the weekend in Malta.
Wow. What other countries will you be running marathons this year? I
can't really tell because I'm announcing on social media, but Italy, the States, Africa, the Middle East again, so all over the world. So hopefully those international listeners and viewers, hopefully I'll be in a country near you very soon.
Well, good luck with all of that and keep up the fantastic work, Richard, and great having you back on the podcast. Now, before I get your thoughts on the game, the three of you, we're going to hear now from Ange Postecoglou. This is what he said in his post-match press conference.
Performance would have frustrated you on the balance of the second half performance. That's something the game for you should have got something from.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like I said, first half we just a little bit too eager and to get forward with the ball. I thought just with the ball we were really wasteful, and when you are against City, that allows them to get a sort of rhythm in their game where, you know, they can sort of pick you off at different times, and we just didn't handle that part of the game well. So, you know, they obviously scored and had a couple of good chances to sort of get further ahead. But I certainly feel that the second half we dominated the game and territory, and you know, we were pretty relentless, much better with the ball, a lot calmer, but just missing a goal and ultimately fell short.
In spite of the result, and you're in a position where you can bring the likes of Kulusevski, Son, Spencer all off the bench at the same time, you must feel as if you are turning a bit of a corner now.
Yeah, look, I think it's disappointing to lose again, and you know, that's the ultimate sort of the main sort of feeling. But it did look more like us today. I mean, at least, you know, from my perspective, that's, you know, we were really relentless. We played really aggressive football. We you know, we took it to a very, you know, good opponent, and you know, we never sort of tapered off at all. You know, if anything, like I said, bringing the guys on made us stronger towards the end of the game. So disappointing to lose, but you know, I think you see the benefit of us, you know, being sort of refreshed and going into a game, you know, well prepared. I think that level of performance in the second half, if we can sort of begin to get consistent with that, then you know, we'll be able to sort of push on.
Jay. Hi, Ange. That was Wilson Oliver's first start since September. Just wanted your thoughts on how he's gone.
Yeah, I thought he was great. I mean, it was important tonight that him, Destiny, and Brennan got some minutes. Again, it's one thing to get guys back from injury, but we've got to get them sort of up to speed as quickly as we possibly can. And you can see Wilson hasn't played for a while, but you could also see the quality he has. I think he grew into the game second half. I thought he was a big catalyst at the beginning of the second half. He was running at the opposition, and he's an exciting player. And if we can manage him through this period and sort of get him to really a decent level of fitness, I'm sure he'll help us finish the season strong.
And with Spurs has been Son coming on, was it just their turn to connect the team? Someone else got minutes?
No, it wasn't their turn, but like I said, it's just there's no point having a squad. I can't be sitting here promoting a squad and then not use it. I think that'd be highly hypocritical of me, but we needed Destiny, Brennan and Wilson to play today and get some minutes, and Decky, Sonny and Jed have played an enormous amount of time, so having them sort of have a little bit of a recovery and a breather I thought was going to be helpful for us. But more importantly, like I said, now I've got 3 more players who we're getting close to, I mean, it's 90 minutes for Brennan. That's the first 90 minutes for quite a while, where we're going to have some real options which we're going to need, because we've got Europa and League back to back now, and we need as many bodies available for that as possible.
And it might be too simplistic to say City at Haaland tonight, and you didn't have Dobson on, but I'm guessing you're really looking forward to getting him back in a week or so.
Yeah, absolutely. Dom and Richie. Look, Matty's working his really hard, but we're asking him, for him to do a massive job for us at this level, and he's probably one that did probably need a rest and probably does need a rest, because he's come in and has played every game. So it'll be good to get Dom back in there. When he was playing for us, he was hard to stop, and like I said, you can see the benefit of them having Erling in their side. So hopefully Dom's not too far away.
Dave, did you think the very last action was so dramatic and the thought Saul was going to be it? Do you think Son kind of took it away from him slightly, or what did you view on that?
Yeah, hard to say. I mean, it was like it happened really quickly, but we had a few of those moments in the second half where it just either flashed across the box, or Ederson's made a save, or they've made a block. Like I said, you're flattened by the defeat, but in terms of the way we played and the way we went about it, it was much more like the team we want to be, and we've already shown we can do that. So there's a lesson in there for us. Like I said, the first half, we just, some of it was just, I think, enthusiasm and trying to be too aggressive with the ball. And once we settle down in the second half, if we can take that into games, then I think we'll, like I said, we'll be able to push on.
Like you had a long chat with Pam after the whistle, without wishing to cry too much. Any sort of?
Well, you are crying, aren't you? So you do want to know. No. Just a couple of managers, sharing their thoughts. That's it. Okay, thank you. Thanks.
So let's get into it. Tottenham Hotspur 0, Manchester City 1. Erling Haaland with the only goal of the game after 12 minutes. It states here that the attendance was 60,820, but there were a lot of empty seats today at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and it was extremely quiet. Match facts and stats here. Tottenham Hotspur 55% of the ball to Manchester City's 45%. XG Spurs 1.12 to Manchester City's 2.09. Shots, Spurs had 11 to Manchester City's 12. Shots on target, Spurs 6, Manchester City 5. Total touches inside the box, Spurs 27, Manchester City 29. Goalkeeper saves, Vicario 4, Ederson 6. Fouls, Spurs 12, Manchester City 15. And corners, Spurs 8 to Manchester City's 3. As I mentioned, Spurs are 13th in the Premier League table, 33 points from 27 games. Manchester United also have 33 points from 27 games, but Spurs are ahead on goal difference. Ricky, let's come to you first. Let's get your thoughts on the game and your thoughts on Ange Postecoglou's comments in his post-match presser there.
You know what? It was a funny old game today, as they say, for me. I thought we started brightly. You know, with the changes that we made, there was a lot of pace up front. You know, I felt that Archie Gray and Bergvall, again, for moments in that first half, they were so good. Like, they would just shimmy their body and step and just leave some of them players, Man City players, in their wake, you know. I felt that the Man City goal was almost against the run of play at that point. I felt that we was like pretty on top. Man City are always going to have opportunities. You know, they've got quality running through their side. We know how good they are. It doesn't, regardless of form, how good they are. But I thought we started brightly, and even when we conceded the goal, we continued to play our way. But it got to about, I think, like 20 odd minutes, 22 minutes, something like that. And, you know, like, just Man City just started finding their ways. And Pep even tweaked a little bit with Marmoush as well in that half. And they done something where they were just ended up cutting through us every single time, pretty much. But I felt that we handled it well. I felt that, you know, Danso, again, strong. You know, Bentancur at times as well, very strong. But they've got a fantastic player in Doku. And he almost glides across that field. You know, he's got a really powerful turn of pace, and he's got very close dribbling as well. And you can see how many times he had a couple of opportunities, and you can see how many times he got by a defender. So with our defense that was playing today, it's no kind of shame that they were getting done by Doku at certain points. But I feel that we responded really well. I felt that it was positive that we could actually have 3 players rested and bring 3 players on, senior players, to turn the game and try and make things happen. And they did. All of our subs really did make an impact. And I think we was unlucky at stages. I think we had some opportunities to at least get a draw out of the game today. So there were a lot of positives, even though, for me, even though it was still a loss. The glaring negative for me is that we didn't move the ball quick enough. Every single time, I think we held on to the ball for 1-2 touches, and that allowed Man City to get back into their shape. They're very good off the ball as well as on the ball, organisation-wise. And, you know, there was times that the easy pass to get up the field was there, but we just took an extra touch and passed it backwards or sideways and didn't just complete that forward momentum. So that there was many a times that we were actually on the break, and if the riskier pass was made, you know, we could have got in behind. But I still think there were positives in there. We were trying loads of different things, and, you know, you could just see how much we're missing someone like Solanke up there, who is, you know, a certified number 9, somebody who can hold it up, score and head and do the things that we need a centre forward to do for Tottenham right now.
Ricky,
yes,
I know we're gonna get into it. At the end of the game, of course, Manchester City scored, or they thought they'd scored a second goal, but it went to VAR. A lot of people around where I was sitting today inside the stadium were complaining about the referee. What did you make? I know we don't normally talk about the referee's performance on the podcast, but I feel like it's very relevant this evening. What did you make of the referee, Jared Gillett, this evening?
It's really tough for me to speak about referees because I don't ever really expect anything to go our way when it comes down to Tottenham Hotspur. And that's just me being a cynical fan. That's me being an emotional, cynical fan, you know. So there were things that, you know, that Man City were getting away with today, that as soon as Tottenham done it, it was a card or it was a free kick or it was a foul against us. I think there was loads of those incidences. You know, some of the barges off the ball, for instance. Doku, I think, it was either Archie Gray or Porro in the first half. He sent him flying, but that was no foul, and they were in again on goal. And I think Sarr done one against Foden. I think there was a couple of others that we done, but every single time that we done it, there was a card or a foul or a free kick that was going against us. And, you know, the whole debacle at the end there, there's there's loads of reasons why it was a massive waste of time. Because, okay, one, we waited how many minutes for there to be a decision through VAR? Commentators at home told us that the goal stood. But then we saw Tottenham start breaking, and the commentators were confused, as well as the graphics guy. They put it back down to 1-0. So now we're seeing that the goal's been disallowed, and as we're trying to break, and that was that star opportunity. But it took that amount of time to then go with the referee's decision anyway, and then don't add on an extra 2 minutes for all of the time wasted and ate up by subs and that whole VAR check. So, I mean, if they would have given us an extra 2 minutes because of all of that, I would have been okay, fine. You know, it's just another VAR incident. But when they just gave us another 20 seconds and then they blew the whistle, I was just like, well, what was the point in all of that, really?
I tell you, I'm going to say again, it was probably one of the most quietest stadiums I've ever been in.
Why do you think that was, Chris?
I've
was
no
it
idea.
Like attendances?
It's like the crowd weren't even up for it this evening, which I found really, really strange. Like 10, 15 minutes into the match, it was like, you know, come on. Everyone was just so quiet, but there were a lot of empty seats this evening inside the stadium. Craig, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on this evening's game and Ange Postecoglou's comments in the press conference.
Yeah, it was a funny game, like Ricky said. It was you know, we could have been 3-0 down within the first 20 minutes at least. You're right, Doku, I thought was absolutely skinning Porro. I think, to be fair, Spence would have probably done better against him because of that extra pace. But Spence needed a rest. So, and Porro getting caught upfield a few times like he tends to do. I think there was a lot of space out there. But, you know, if Doku had an end product more often than not, then, they could have been over the heels and far away, to be honest, because that first half wasn't brilliant. I thought the second half was much better. I thought Bentancur had a pretty good game overall tonight. I thought he covered a lot of ground. Archie Gray, Bergvall, Vicario had a decent game. Danso. I don't think Porro had his strongest game. I thought Doggy was okay. Maddison in fits and starts, but it was really the front three that really lacked for me. Not much from Brennan Johnson tonight. A couple of times I thought it just looked like he was jogging. I'm sure he wasn't, but I thought Brennan Johnson is supposed to be one of the quickest players in the Premiership. It just didn't look like it on occasions in that first half tonight. And again, I'd just like to see him go at his man a bit more, you know. But not much service for Tell tonight. Shows for me, agree with Ricky, how much we missed Solanke. I think having a proper number 9 up there would have made a lot of difference tonight. I think Tell did a lot of running, ran the channels to very little reward. I thought Odebear was decent in spells again, getting minutes in the legs, but yeah, it did come across very quiet on the telly tonight. It was strange. I think Man City sort of hushed the crowd up a bit, actually, and the crowd just couldn't get up for it for whatever reason. I think it was just one of those games where the crowd just, you could hear a few songs try and get going, and people just didn't, for whatever reason, get up for joining in with the chant. So yeah, it was a really funny game. I see some people saying it was a free hit. I wouldn't say that personally. I'd say, I think Man City, in different results lately, I thought they were there for the taking. I thought we had a really good chance tonight, actually, but it just wasn't to be. On the balance of play, I think probably it deserved at least a draw for the second half, but the first half, like I say, they sit on top, so probably the best side on the night just squeaked it for me.
Yeah, sadly, I agree. Rich, let's get your thoughts on the game. Of course, you've not been on the podcast for the last couple of months. What have you made of this time? Because, of course, we've seen all of the criticism aimed at the board, Ange Postecoglou, a lot of the players. What have you made of this up and down season? Of course, Spurs are sitting 13th in the Premier League table. What have you made of it?
Well, over the last couple of months, I've definitely been working positively on my mental health because I've not been on because I've not been on the podcast. Kind of, kind of discussing defeat after defeat. But there's quite a few issues, I think, with today's game. I think I'm looking down the comments. Stu was saying about obviously crowd should be 12th man. I've spoke about this a lot of times, haven't I, Chris, about the crowd's interaction with the field of play. I think when it's quiet, it has a negative impact on the players. The fans have got a real responsibility to support the players, and booing has a negative impact, but not actually kind of singing, getting behind the players, again, has a massive impact on the field of play. It was evident today. I felt, like I say, watching from home, felt flat. Players weren't aggressive enough. I was really strange by the comments that Andrew was saying about like that the players were too aggressive. I was like, no. You need to be more aggressive. You need to be putting it on the Man City players. Definitely, they weren't moving the ball fast enough. The ball was going far too much sideways. I felt that the front three weren't aggressive enough in the press. I think Tell really needs to get stuck in more. There's a couple of like 50-50 challenges he pulled out of, the same as Johnson today. I thought he had a really poor game today. And yes, obviously he's coming back from injury. But surely when you've got players on the bench that are in form, you start with them and then you take them off. I think that for me, there was too many changes from the game before. You win a game before, then what you do is you keep that as best you can, that team, the consistency, the movement patterns, the press, the teamwork down the lines, and then you wanted to give other players minutes. You do that later in the game when hopefully you're ahead, or you do it anyway. I just think tactically you got it completely wrong today, completely wrong. And the younger players really did step up. Like Ricky was saying with Archie Gray, I think he had a good game. He's obviously got an old head on a young set of shoulders for sure. Bergvall, obviously, again, like yes, he gave the ball away a couple of times in dangerous areas, but generally really moved the ball through the lines really well. Always a threat going forward, but nothing in front of him. No real opportunities. And I think because we made so many changes across that front line, there was no continuity at all when people going forwards and back. And one thing that was really worrying me and has worried me over like probably the last 3 or 4 weeks is Porro's defensive duties. He always goes missing. Like you look at that side when the opposition is attacking, Porro's out of position. He's playing more as a centre back or he's out of position. And over that side, they've got 30 yards to run with the ball before anybody engages. And that's really, really, really disappointing. And we're going to get punished with the better teams.
Ricky, let's come to you. I feel like this segment of the podcast is going to be pretty large because I feel like we really need to talk about the team selection this evening, as Richard has touched on there. Now, this is the team that Ange Postecoglou put out this evening against Manchester City. Vicario, Porro, Gray, Danso, Udogie, Bergvall, Bentancur, Maddison as captain, Johnson, Tell and Odegaard. And then the subs this evening, Kinski, Reguilon, Spence, Basuma, Sarr, Kulusevski, Timo Werner, Heung-min Son and Dane Scarlett. Ricky, I suppose the question that I should ask first of all to you is, did Ange Postecoglou get it right this evening? Because a number of people that I spoke to before the game today, they asked me my opinion about what I think of the starting 11. And my answer was, perhaps it's just one change too many, in my opinion, because like Richard said there, and I do agree with Richard's comments, that, when you've got players playing well, they should start the game, especially against the champions. I know Manchester City have been in different form in the Premier League, but they are still fourth. They have still got quality players. We know what they can do, all across the pitch. And we know that, they've got a fantastic bench as well. The quality on their bench is unbelievable. But when Ange said in the post-match presser there, we needed to give some of these players game time, where do you stand on it? Was it a step too far? And was it too many changes this evening?
For me, I think Ange took a calculated risk tonight, and fundamentally we lost, so ultimately it failed. But I think he took a calculated risk tonight to give your doggy another start, and to get some minutes into Odebear's legs. Now, there's been some fans that have been criticizing Son over some weeks because he hasn't been at his best. I don't know whether you guys heard the interview that Kulusevski done a couple of weeks ago, where he said he's been going into games at 40 and 50%. When we especially when we was on that every 3 days type of run. So today, even though we've got another 8 days to go, right? So we've got 8 days until the next game. So arguably, you gentlemen are right. You could have started our first teamers, and especially Spence, who's been arguably our best player, 3 man in the matches on the bounce as well. You could have started with them, and then you could have brought people off. But I think he took a calculated risk in doing it this way to actually give Kulu and Sonny a little bit extra. I think his game plan was to bring them on in the second half, 60 odd minutes, and go hell for leather at them.
The thing is, Ricky, your fast impact players both started. Wilson and Johnson, they would be so much better off the bench.
Yeah,
breaking down those lines. And I'm
with you. I'm thinking about what he's done and why he's done it. That's what.
And then the next game's 8 days.
I agree with you. No, I agree with you. You bring pace off of the bench, and it's dangerous, especially against tired legs and stuff like that. Of course, I'm with you.
An old team, Man City, old team.
Yeah, but I think I don't know why he's taking the risk, and obviously fundamentally it's not been the risk has had no reward tonight. But there were some really good performances in there. Was the finishing article not there tonight? Yes, I think there was not reasons, but I think there was their goalkeeper's a world-class goalkeeper. They've got a great defense as well. So I think there was little things where we was a little bit unlucky. Sarr had 2 opportunities which didn't hit the bar. You know what I mean? And he headed over and stuff. Like there were opportunities there, but we were just missing the fire and the bite. And maybe, like you were saying there, maybe that's when the crowd and the noise and the G up. That's when that is needed. When you can see that because it's not like they stopped trying. It's not like they gave up. It's not like their heads dropped at any point. I saw them continue to fight until the last minute. They continue to fight. Of course, Man City are going to have the ball, and of course they're going to have opportunities at time. Of course they are. But I never saw us stop, and I never saw us give up, and I saw us continue to go right up until that last second. And they were arguing after the last, after the final whistle about that extra time element and about the VAR element. So, these boys care about the game. They care about the result. They care about their performances. So there was a lot there. But when we went to Hoffenheim, Chris, and I've always said this ever since we lost the drum. I've always wanted the drum back at Tottenham. I've always have. But when we went to Hoffenheim, their stadium wasn't packed out, was it? They had the one stand that was pretty packed. But they had about 3-4 drummers there and somebody who was conducting the orchestra, and they just sent that noise and that atmosphere, and they sent that energy around the stadium. And there were pockets where we were sitting and around the stadium that were quiet, but that one section were going, and they continue to keep the energy going, keep the fight going. And they not only picked up their players, but they picked up the crowd as well at times. And I really think that we missed that at Tottenham. I really think that we missed, the trumpet is phenomenal. The light show really, really good. We got a great speaker system, for all of the tracks that burst out of them. But I think the one thing that we really miss is that drum, just to get everybody's heart pumping and get everybody's heads back up again and get us kind of giving that energy to the boys.
There's a job for you there, Craig, banging that drum. Craig, let's come to you on this about the starting 11. Top Spur 63. Thank you so much for all your comments, by the way. everyone watching on YouTube. He says here it was a meaningless game. A few people actually said that to me at half time. It was like, you know, a few mentioned that it felt like a pre-season friendly. It was that quiet. Do you believe in any way, I know we'll talk about team selection in a second, but do you believe in any way that the number one priority now is the Europa League? Because Ange Postecoglou has been asked this recently, and he rubbished the idea that they are prioritising any competition over another. But when, and I'm sorry to keep going on about it, 13th in the Premier League table, and although we'd been on a run of 3 wins out of 3 in the Premier League going into this game, the defeat now with the teams beating one another, and there seems to be this pack of teams, you know, just below the European spots. So there is a lot of competition for those European spots right now. And Spurs seem to be somewhat behind all of those points-wise. Do you believe that there is any prioritising going on for the Europa League, Craig?
I think it's 100% they're prioritising the Europa League. I think it was clear to see from the team selection today. Just looking back on when Spurs released the lineup, actually on the Spurs X account, you know, most people were probably a bit miffed that Spence wasn't getting a start over Son and Kulusevski. A couple of people commenting, obviously Son's record against City is very good, which we all know. But it was more Spence than anybody. People couldn't understand why he did it. The reason he did it is because of the amount of minutes Spence has played. And it's clear to me that Jed Spence is going to get a start, whether that be left or right, next week. So, yeah, although it's 7 days away, I can kind of see why he did it, Ange, tonight. I can. As I say, I wouldn't say it was a free hit tonight, but I actually didn't think that lineup was too bad. I thought they were going to be going with sheer pace down the wings in Odegaard and Johnson. Obviously, Johnson didn't think he looked particularly quick tonight, as I said. But I think that's what they were trying to do. That's what Ange was trying to do. And then, of course, you knew at some point Son and Kulusevski and Spence were going to come on. Jed Spence I thought was very good when he came on and added something a bit different. Although Doggy, I thought, had a half decent game himself, especially that driving run in the second half just before he come off. So it was a really weird atmosphere, and it came across at home watching it. It did seem almost like a pre-season friendly. That's right. It was like the whole place wasn't up for it. It was a weird feeling. Yeah, that's the only word I can use to describe it. But I, in answer to your question, I think they are prioritising the Europa. I think they know we're safe in the league. We're not going to get relegated. If we can push up that league, it's going to be tough to get a European spot, whatever. When you think how many games we got left and who we've got to play, so perhaps they've looked at everything and thought, okay, we can nick points here and there, but we're not going to qualify for the Champions League, that's for sure, through the league. And you've got to say, if you're honest, what's the chances of getting Europa or even the Conference League through the league position? Is probably slim because of the sheer number of teams above us. It's not like we're all within 3 points of each other. It's the amount of points gap as well.
What is realistic in terms of league position this season?
Your guess is realistic is probably 8th or 9th, isn't it? Sadly, and that's probably push. You just got to look at the sheer number of teams above us. If you're looking at it, sometimes when we've been 5th or 6th, you're only really looking at 2 or 3 teams' results above us, wanting them to lose. It's impossible to even look at the league now and think, okay, we could do with so and so beating so and so, because there's so many teams in that mix. It's impossible. So. Yeah, I would say, I don't know what the other boys think, but I would say 8th or 9th, I think, is probably the best we could hope for.
Ricky, Rich, what do you think in terms of league position, the best that we can hope for?
I'm the same as Craig. I think that would be, probably the best that we could go for right now. But I think that there's that gives us a great opportunity to put all our focus. And how many times, Chris, have I heard you say you want the first team, you want us going full guns blazing in the cup. You want all our focus on the cup. You know, there's been many a cup games that I've heard you say that and heard you say similar things, you know. And this year, it's going to be that way. I've seen a couple of fans online saying, you know, and I'm paraphrasing, but towards the lines of, you know, forget about the league. Let's put all our focus on the cup. And why not? How tremendous would that be? You know, not only to lift a European trophy, you know, not only to lift a trophy, you know, after all of our madness, after this crazy season, but then to also qualify for Champions League through that trophy. So it's not a negative that if that is what is happening.
Yeah.
You know, so
the comment
but I don't think that they're ever going to stop to go for the league game. I don't think they're ever going to put their foot in to go, yeah, I don't want to win today because I want to save myself for the weekend for the Europe. I still see them going for it.
The only thing I feel like bothers me personally today, Ricky, is what Richard said. It's like we're not playing again for 8 days. I get all of the injuries that we've had, and I get all of the comments that Andrew's come out with, but I quite often said this when the likes of Pochettino, and you know, I'm a huge fan of Pochettino, certainly as a Spurs manager. But when he used to play certain cup games and he would bring the big guns on at the end when things were going wrong, I always said, and I feel like a lot of people said the same thing, well, if you're going to bring them on, you might as well start with them in the first place. So I do completely agree with what Richard said when we haven't got a game this weekend. So I feel like that bothers me this evening. But I also get the fact that you need to, you know, use the squad, like Andrew said this evening, but it just feels like an opportunity missed. But I do get the fact also that we did have chances and, you know, Sarr at the end, which we'll come to. But Rich, let's get your opinion. Where do you think we'll finish this season? I know you hate that question, but I've got to ask it.
Well, if Timo Werner plays any more minutes, then probably about relegation.
do you know, all joking aside, when Timo Werner came on right at the end, and we will come to it, when he came on at the end, so many fans got up and walked out the stadium.
He didn't touch the ball, did he? Did he touch the ball?
Yeah, a couple of times.
He was useless. Useless again.
I just looked at the BBC rating straight after the game, and he was right at the bottom.
Useless. But as soon as he came on, Chris, I bet you were saying, I bet Whitehead makes a comment about Werner.
You don't want to know what I was saying. You don't want to know what people around me were saying about it.
But so league finish. I think obviously top half. We should be in the top half. I think 8th at best, probably. I think it's and that's just a bad attitude to have around like the season. Really, 8th, like settling for 8th, and like, do you know the narrative around injured players and all the narrative about resting players? It's bullshit. Look, I'm a professional athlete. I know professional athletes that every week put in 100%. Now, there's been issues with sports science. I think there is issues there because too many injuries, too much intensity within training or the intensity of the games. But the narrative around injuries and resting players, not for me. Not for me. You play best today. We play a best team that's available, and you bring those the players that need minutes to come on. One thing around professional sport that people do forget is confidence is key to success. I always say you look at the players coming into the stadium, going into the tunnel. Confidence is key to success. And when you've got that confidence, like you look, Spence today came on, different player than he was when he first was with Spurs. Like fans love him. You felt that from the stadium. Even the commentator said fan favourite. He feels it now. Even social media feels it. That's lifted his performance level. Lifted it. Now, if you're playing a patched up team for the league and then you're expecting to go and win the Europa League, not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'll tell you why. Because you're not taking any confidence into that game. Yes, you might have fresh players, but confidence breeds confidence on the field of play. Players do. They raise their levels naturally because of that confidence. You're not going to, if you're getting dicked on a Saturday by a Bob average team that we normally should be, and then you're going into Europa game, pressure how much pressure the team's under? A lot more pressure, not only from their manager and from their fans, themselves, the wider community, because of the trophyless kind of success that we've had in the last 20 years. I think for me, it's confidence is key. You need to build confidence in the players. Manager needs to be confident in you. You need to express it on the field of play, and then take that into the cup games. That's for me. I think all this other narrative is all bullshit.
Rich, from a professional athlete's point of view, what have you made of all of the injuries at Tottenham this season and all of those problems? Yeah,
worrying. I think obviously there's the intensity. Obviously, look at runs and the amount of kind of work the players are doing in game. I think it's, and some of the kamikaze play that we still have, not really like power league football. Like it's just like, where's the attack and defence? Where's the control of the game? I think we lose the control of the game. The players are literally on it from minute one, which I can understand, but leaving lots of gaps. I think the injuries in somewhat are historic with the Angers teams. You look from when he first came in. It's not just this season. Fans do forget. Last season had a lot of injuries as well. And then because of that, I think some of the players are then holding back with when they're coming back now. I watching today, I was like, that player's not going into that 50-50 like I'd want him to. I think players need to be more committed to the team. When they kiss that badge, when they put that shirt on, they need to give everything for it. And I think some of them are just like going through the motions at the moment, which has affected the result today, especially in that first half. That first half, did we have, was it one shot on target? Was that the header? Was it a couple of headers?
Danso, yeah.
And that weak. I thought the first half was very weak. And again, sets up the rest of the game. What are the fans seeing that's going to like really get them onto the edge of the seats? What are they seeing? Players need to take responsibility, but unfortunately, the manager also needs to take responsibility when he's either putting the players in that are looking for match fitness, not playing with confidence. And I think because of that, Vicario's having to do so much work in the games. Look at the Ipswich game. So much work in the first half.
Yeah,
because of some of these decisions the manager's making.
Rich, yesterday in the pre-match press conference, Postecoglou said that we are near now at full intensity training. But in recent weeks, he said to the journalists, and he says, I'm not joking, you guys could have took part in the training. Now, from a professional athlete's point of view, what do you make of that? The fact that the training, they've literally been walking through training, Andrew's words, not mine. So when it does come to a match day and they're giving so much, talk us through what that does.
For me, again, you've what's name? You're losing your intensity. The reason the sessions that they should be doing within training need to have the intensity that you take into the matches. You can't.
But they're knackered.
Well, why? What the professional athletes? What else are they doing? You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not being funny, but what else are they doing? I'm sorry that again, the narrative around knackered players, it's ridiculous. No way are all those players knackered. I tell you, it's because they're not managed appropriately through their training. They're not managed appropriately through their week, and they're not managed appropriately in game time. That is the reason why. It's again narrative around knackered players. It's bollocks. They're not playing that. They're not playing the kind of intense games Saturday, Wednesday, like when we're in the Champions League. They're not playing that. We didn't have anywhere near the injuries when we were playing Champions League and Premier League. And yes, it's different kind of intensity. I understand that. But that's because they're managed appropriately. You look at the amount of players we utilise within the Champions League and Premier League seasons. It wasn't as many players as we've got now, for sure not. And the disappointing thing is, he goes back to that narrative quite a lot, and it does piss me. It does piss me off as an athlete because it's kind of shifting the responsibility instead of actually going, look, we're playing this way. It's creating these issues with the players. The players might not be up to 100%, but they're giving everything on the pitch. Not just saying they're knackered or they're injured. And for me, it's just an excuse.
It's definitely been the main subject of the last couple of months with all of these injuries. Lastly, on that, Rich, are you still behind Ange Postecoglou as Spurs boss?
I think there's what I find is that my expectation as a Spurs fan are that we're 4th, 5th in the table. That's my expectation.
Yeah.
Challenging for the major trophies, moving forward. With this style of play, I can't see how we're able to do that. I can't see how. I would like somebody to actually explain to me how we can play brilliantly one week and then be so loose at the back with very similar players, and then the manager coming out and say, "Oh yeah, obviously players are getting used to the system." Blah blah. No, not everybody's. As a neutral, everybody loves watching Spurs because we give the other team space on the ball. We give them lots of opportunities. The games are high scoring. No. Yeah, I want to see football. I want to see great play. I want to see dynamic winners. But we're giving away too many chances early on in the games. We're not moving the ball enough. We haven't got the players. I was listening to Robinson talk before the game on TNT today, and he said managers haven't been backed previously, and has Ange been back with the players he wants? Because if he has, then he needs to take that on himself to say, look, the board's given me the players I wanted, and we're still not where we need to be.
Yeah, but I asked you that question because it sounded like you were really criticising Ange's training methods.
Yeah, well, I've criticised everything. This is the manager. It's whether I think managers should accept that criticism. They're the people that are at the helm. That I do it with my team. I did it when I was a British athletics within the Paralympic movement. I would criticise the performance director. I think you should be able to do that as people that pay to go into the stadium and watch the team. I just think that's the right of the fans, but also that doesn't stop me from 100% being behind the team. When that whistle goes, I'm 100% behind the manager, and that's really important. But he needs to prove to us as fans what the vision is. What is the mission? What's the vision, and how he's going to improve the team from where he came in? Because apparently he said that the team has massively improved since he came in.
Yeah.
What I don't understand personally is today, just looking at today, you're up against a rapid winger like Jeremy Doku, right? You know what he's going to do. You know where he's going to go. You know he's going to try and beat you. He's tricky. He's fast as hell. So for me, I just would have liked to see Porro just sit back a bit and not bomb on as much as he has been. Yeah. And where our fullbacks are, I don't know if this is part. I can't believe it's part of the system, but perhaps it is. They just seem to be so narrow. Even when they're in a back four, they seem to be so narrow, and the gap between the winger and the fullback. See, they've got such a long way to go to get to the winger. The winger's got a run on them already, and Doku done it time and time again today. So for me, I think Spence would have handled him a bit better because Spence seems to time his runs a bit more than Porro does. Porro's just gone, bang, bang. And it's great when we're attacking, and it's great when we're up against a team that's not going to hit us it wasn't even on the break. That's part of City's play, a better team, if you like. I just think Spence has kind of got it. Yeah, he'll get caught up fields a couple of times, but Porro it just seems to happen time and time again with Porro, and that's why Doku had all that space.
Ricky, it's fascinating, isn't it, hearing from Richard and his point of view, from a professional athlete's point of view, on the injury side of things, because as we know, Ange Postecoglou has come out and said, when we get all of our players back, we will be an outstanding team. You've always had a similar thought, haven't you? And what do you make of Richard's comments there?
Very, very, very insightful. It was good to hear it. The only thing that I thought when speaking is that we have had those run of 3 games, and we have been doing Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, Thursday for the last 2.5 months. It's only the last couple of weeks that we've had these midweeks off. Yep. So it has been. I think you're absolutely right in kind of speaking about the amount of intensity within the game, and there's been a lot of games, and so I think the intensity within training, my idea behind it, and it's not nothing that I know, it's just an idea, is that because of the amount of injuries that we were getting, and we had various amount of injuries, you know, they weren't all hamstrings. You know, Romero's toe got injured, and then he done a Cruyff turn, and it was his thigh that went out. You know, Richarlison, when he came back the first time, he passed with his left foot, and his thigh went out. Some of, you know, Vicario went up for a save for a Porro back header, and his ankle went out. We've had 4 people on the operating table this year. You know, we've had 4 different keepers this year. So it's just like, so there has been there. I think that the intensity within training would have dropped probably to try and not rinse the same core of 13 players that we've been using. That's not that I know anything, but that would be my, you know, that would be my guess at why the training had to drop in between those times, because when we've got another must-win game, and Ange and those boys have had must-win games every 3 days for a very long time, you know, for a very long time. So the pressure has been on them. So that's the only thing that I would say to counterbalance. But again, I come from no fact. I just come from trying to make an educated guess.
Ricky, on the team selection, Thomas Tuchel was at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this evening, and Jed Spence would probably be thinking, of all the games, you know, let me play in this one when Thomas Tuchel is watching the game. Of course, James Maddison captained Spurs this evening. Do you think that those two, or one of them, will be in Thomas Tuchel's first England squad?
Do you know what? I think just on Spence has been immense week in, week out. And commentators were talking about there not being like a spark in the team. And he is that spark. He really is. When you see him on that field, he's always calling for the ball. He's always looking to make things happen. He's always there in defense as an option or to get back. His change of pace, his strength on the ball. He also glides very similar to Doku. Not the same, but very similar. And if he was up, like Craig was saying there, if he was up against Doku, I think that we might have had a bit more joy on that side. But yeah, I think Spence would have loved to have played today, not just because Tuchel was in attendance, but because it was against, you know, the champions, and it's Man City, and it's another chance under the lights to prove himself and to show everybody how good he really is. And he's been going from strength to strength. My only guess is that because he has been that spark, and because he's actually become one of the really important players for us, that they're like, okay, cool, we're going to have to manage him, you know, and maybe bring him on to change the game in the second half. That's, you know, it's a guess, but again, I would have started Spence, and I think that he would have loved it. Do I think that they're going to get into the England squad? Madders is a really tough one because how congested and how much quality they have in his position. I think he's done. I think Madders has done actually really well for a little bit now. He's been out for, you know, he does well and then he's out for 2 weeks, and he does well and he's out for 2 weeks. So it's been broken up. And because of the amount of games that we've had in quick succession, it feels like he's been out for longer. But when he has come in recently, especially, he has been, you know, he has been the tempo. He has been the metronome. He has been, you know, up and down the field. And I think that his creativity and his eye for a pass, it has been getting sharper and sharper week in, week out. But I just think it's too congested. I think Spence has a great opportunity because he can play right and left. And you've seen how dynamic he is, and you can see how hungry he is, and you can see how much he wants the ball and how much he wants to change the game. If something's not happening in an England shirt, then you can see, giving it to him, something he's going to try and make something happen. But ultimately, I'm very selfish, and I want them. I don't mind them not being in the England squad because I want them fit and hungry and ready for Tottenham Hotspur. Do you know what I mean? I'm a little bit selfish that way, but yeah, good luck to them both.
Craig, just before I come to you, big shout out to Kevin here. You won't believe this, but I'm a 78-year-old City fan. Subscribe to the channel. Really enjoying the channel. We'll listen in regularly. Kevin, thank you so much.
Nice one, Kev.
Craig, will James Maddison be in Thomas Tuchel's first England squad? Should he be there?
I suppose you've got to look at the other players that can play in that role. I think he's facing a lot of competition there. I think it's 50-50 whether he gets in or not, to be honest, because his performances have been okay. He's not set the world alight, but I think Tuchel might give him. He's going to want to have a look at players, isn't he? He's going to. I know he's got a while before the next major competition, but you know.
Yes or no? Yes or no, Craig?
Probably not. No, I don't think so.
Rich, yes or no?
No, not played enough minutes consistently. I doesn't control the game through the 90 minutes, only in small patches. I still think he's got to recapture that form he had when he first came. So not for me.
Craig, will Jed Spence be in the England squad?
He certainly deserves it. Yes, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, is Ricky, Rich, are we getting a yes from you as well?
He's got a chance. I think injury-wise, in the middle of the season, yeah, probably. I just got a very good chance.
Ricky?
Yeah. I said that in my little waffle, but Luke Shaw's going to turn up for England, innit? And just keep Spence on the bench, innit? You know what I mean? And Man United fans are going to go mental.
Should I ask when Romero comes back? Is he going to go off to Argentina?
Oh God! Can you imagine?
Sure, isn't it?
Should we not go there?
Let's leave it. Oh,
right,
goodness.
Craig. Let's come on to the game. After 7 minutes, a cross from the right to Haaland, straight at Vicario, comfortable save for him, and then after 12 minutes, it was a brilliant team move. In all honesty, finished by Haaland. Vicario then came out, started shouting at the team, talking to some players, encouraging some players as well. First of all, what did you make of the only goal of the game after 12 minutes?
I just think it goes back to what I was saying earlier. The amount of space that Doku had on that side, it was just. Look, let's face it. They ripped us apart a couple of times, didn't they? They could have had 3. Like I say, it was a good 10 goal, straight through the middle of us, and a good finish by Haaland. To be honest. You could say, well, it was bad defending by Tottenham. It was bad defending. We did look all over the place in that first 20 minutes on occasion, but you can see there Vicario showing that he is a leader and a captain in the making, geeing the players up. Look, you can see the players there. I know, benefit the listeners on audio. It's just a video playing of just after the goal and how the players are reacting. Players standing with hands on hips, obviously. Probably blaming each other, but trying to G each other up. Vicario really telling players what he wants to do, perhaps where they should have been. So, good goal by City, and I'm just surprised they didn't go on and get 2 or 3 more, like I say, because they did have some golden opportunities, especially one that was hoisted straight over the bar by I can't remember who that was actually, but it should have been 2-0.
Rich, we've spoken in the last couple of years, certainly on this podcast, many, many times about leadership. And when you see Vicario there, and I said on the podcast last weekend, the Ipswich one, about Vicario, that I don't feel like I've ever seen a Spurs goalkeeper talk so much, communicate so much with all of the players. Are you surprised by this? Because it seems like since he's come back from injury, we are seeing this more and more and more, real leadership on the pitch, off the pitch. We saw that time when he spent out, that time out injured. He was on the sidelines, always encouraging his teammates, always wanting them to do well. Of course, the goalkeeper, whoever was playing. What do you make of this? Because I read a lot into body language on a football pitch.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely different than when we had Luis in the team, right? Like you didn't hear anything from him, and you can tell he's got those leadership qualities, and he's a presence, right? He's a presence on the pitch and off the pitch, whether that's with some of the community initiatives, which I know he's been involved in, as well as obviously behind the scenes when he's been injured, which is fantastic. And those are the kind of leaders through that spine of the team. And I think when you look at that spine of the team, especially with the 2 centre backs out, we're losing that, aren't we? we talk about like what's the good parts of a team. It's having that spine, having that centre back, having that midfielder, having that striker that really do kind of glue everybody together. And I think he is definitely one of the leaders that's come out of this season, like really strong opinions. Starts to organise his defence. Do you know tonight as well? Obviously, we lost 1-0, and that goal should have been. We should have snubbed out that danger from that goal. Again, intensity, pressing out. Yes, Doku did make a bit of a fall out of Pedro Porro, but that's because he was out of position. Look, where is he? He's there. He's playing as a centre back. I'm like going, what? Why is he there? It's out of position. That is a real problem for me. When you talk about kind of mistakes that he's made over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've noticed loads of times he's been caught out of position. And then obviously the commentator saying, "Oh yeah, it's a terrible defensive mistake." He's put his defenders and teammates in that position because he's not in the right position himself. And that for me has been a downfall. Yes, we could have been 3 down, like Craig said, but they were opportunities a lot of the time that actually Man City created themselves. Where I think those kind of defensive mistakes, like even the second goal, which wasn't allowed, which should have been, obviously, again, another defensive mistake.
Ricky, what do you make of the goal that we conceded after 12 minutes? Because when you look at this graphic here, 7 outfield players in the box, Haaland getting in. I know it was obviously a good finish. It was a good team move, but what do you make of the goal?
I agreed. I felt there was enough back there to snub it out or to get rid of it. It was almost a perfect ball from Doku, and the deflection really did help send it straight through all of those players and straight to Haaland's big toe, and he wasn't going to miss from there. He was going to gobble that up, especially him coming off a couple of games where he's missed out through injury himself. So, but yeah, I think Richard's got a great point there, about the positioning and how kind of one player could confuse us so badly. It was a good team goal by Man City, but again, it's like the boys' reaction from that was to carry on playing the same, and they continued. They kept trying to push, and they kept trying to use Odegaard, and they kept trying to use that diagonal ball. Archie Gray was trying to play some Toby Alderweireld passes there. So they kept pushing forward, but it was only when it hit like I say, 19, 20 minutes, I think it was 22 minutes, where just Man City just started dominating. They found where the gaps were, and they just knew how to overrun us.
Ricky, like Richard and Craig have both mentioned, that clip that I showed there about some of the Spurs outfield players, heads down, hands on hips, Vicario running out, trying to encourage his team, shout at some players, talking to some players. We have seen a different version of Vicario since he's come back, haven't we?
Yeah, very much so. And again, this is why I really like that one of Angie's main focuses on recruiting a player is their character. And you really see that within Vicario. I really encourage everybody, if you haven't seen it already, the Vicario mini documentary that Tottenham put out on their YouTube site is really insightful. But not only did he stay positive, not only did he have a goal in his head to get back and help the team, he turned up at as many games. I think he was there at every game that he could be there at, he was there. And you could see him being frustrated on the sidelines as well when watching games. So I think that there was this big ball of frustration that he knew what he needed to do once he got back in. And one great thing, not just for him, but for any player that's injured and for any of us that are taken out of commission for whatever reason, whether that be work or, whatever it is, the one great thing that Vicario done was feed his mind and get his mental strength up. In the mini documentary, he was reading his Idols book, which is Buffon. And just that alone, the fact that he was studying, because he wasn't reading it, it looked like he was studying that book. Just that alone, I felt that probably, and the time out of the game, probably inspired him to go, I know what I've got to do. And I know how I can affect this team. And I know how my hero done it. And I've got more insight into him. And I know how I can influence this team and pick them up when we're down. And you can see that. You can see him, like you said there, communicating more and shouting more. And he's not afraid, you know. Last season, all right, he had to find his feet. And you can see little elements of that. But since he's come back, especially from injury, it's loud and proud right now. And we need that. We definitely need that.
Yeah. Craig, let's come to you. After 21 minutes, Doku shot a goal. Good save from Vicario. 7 minutes later, another Manchester City chance. Cross from the left, Savinho hitting one over the bar. What a let-off that was for Spurs. Doku, of course, getting the better of Pedro Porro again. And after 30 minutes, Man City with another chance, Vicario saving from Haaland. A great team move again, ending up with Vicario saving. And I've written down here, such fast, attractive football from Manchester City. What did you make of Manchester City today, and what did you expect going into this game? Because it's fair to say, you know, same as Spurs, I know league positions are very different, but, you know, Man City have been very inconsistent this season. Yeah,
they have, but they're still Manchester City. And so you kind of knew what you was going to get with them. You know how Pep's teams play football. You know how Manchester City play football. I was, you know, I know, as I say, Doku hasn't got a brilliant end product, but he's one of the players that scares me when you're playing against him, because he gets at fullbacks. That's what he does. He just gets down the line, tries to get a cross in. Again, his finishing's not top notch, but he was getting in positions. He had a good shot, Vicario down low to his right. So he had a good game for City, but I don't think City were at their best today. I really don't. That's why I think, you know, they were there for the taking to a degree. You know, probably a bit delicate after some punishing results of late and the whole season, really. You know, it's an aging squad to a degree. Players coming to the end of the cycle, like the De Bruyne's. You've got to remember, Kevin De Bruyne weren't even on the pitch tonight. So, you know, and Bernardo Silva only come on right at the end. So, still a dangerous team. Foden as well. Of course, he only came on towards the end of the game. Grealish wasn't on. No, he hasn't really been getting a look in. But look, it's still Manchester City at the end of the day, regardless of the results they've had at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, regardless of the results they've had against Tottenham as a whole. They're still going to be dangerous, and they weren't at their best tonight, but we just couldn't. It was that first half display that probably killed it for us. If we'd you know, started off okay, but then City straight away 2, 3, 4 good chances, quietened the crowd down. And then, you know, it was difficult. You could see the players were trying to go through them, just trying to do their stuff, but it just wasn't happening tonight for some reason.
On 33 minutes, more pressure from Manchester City. Spurs clearing twice and Vicario punching away a corner. And then just before the half-time break, our first real chance of the game, Danso header on goal. Ederson, of course, saving. And then in stoppage time at the end of the first half, James Maddison with a corner. He tried to be clever with it, and Doku then chased. He was quick. Then, of course, Manchester City were on the counter-attack. It was 4 against 2. Lucky they overhit it, and Spurs eventually cleared. And then we went in 1-0 down at half-time. Richard, what did you make of those last few incidents that I mentioned there? And how are you feeling at half-time? Because the people that I spoke to at half-time, they felt that, you know, the team that we'd put out, it was kind of, you know, that's the way it was because of the team that we had out. I felt like we need to give a little bit more. And all of those chances there, apart from Kevin Danso, they were all Manchester City. Yeah,
and also that header really was about 30 yards out. Obviously, it wasn't 30 yards, but it was about 30 yards out.
It was a long way out, yeah.
Yeah, it was like he was going to save it if he was 8 years old or a professional keeper. Yeah, I just think it just the players were wanting to get into the changing rooms as soon as possible. That's what I felt. And Maddison, yeah, he's just a frustrating character sometimes. Like the decisions he makes on the field of play. And then he does that silly thing where he's like, the player's getting away from me. Instead of like letting him get away or kind of try and influence the play another way, he tries to do like a rugby tackle and gets a yellow card every time. The amount of yellow cards he's had by doing that is ridiculous, which he did in the second half. But
Rich, that corner, Rich, though, that infuriated me. That short corner, short corners, I think should be bat. If I was manager of Spurs or any team, I would bat. Don't you dare take short corner. Honestly, it drives me insane.
I also think,
in the
Craig,
box.
though, when you think about the players that we've got in the box, threats wise, I think we're struggling for that dominance in the air, especially in the box. Yes, we have got big players.
Danso, great, but Johnson is never going to head a ball ever. No. He's just not got in the locker.
It'd be interesting to know how many of those players have ever scored from a corner.
Yeah, I just don't get it. I don't get it. You're a professional footballer. You should be able to head the ball.
I'm glad you said that, Craig, because when you've got Doku there as well with that pace, we know that he's got that pace, and that he can run and get that ball. It just I feel very, very frustrated. I'm going to use your word, Rich, and I know Craig uses it a lot about when we're talking about Spurs frustration with James Maddison, and particularly when you've got Thomas Tuchel there as well, and you want to be put in an excellent display. I just feel like James Maddison is a really frustrating player because we've all expected so much from him. When we signed him, it was like, yes, at last we've got that lock picker, that Christian Ederson replacement, that we've waited so long for. Very, very exciting signing, and I just feel like the consistency with him. I know his figures are pretty decent this season, but surely you've got to show that consistency to be one of the best. And it's funny because he's tried to shush up Roy Keane when he scored a tap in against Manchester United, but you've got to do a lot more than that.
He doesn't light up the games either as much as I was expecting as well. And I think also he likes all the kind of the off-field stuff too much. He should do that on the field of play and then just do it. You know what I mean? You don't need to be kind of like shushing people or kind of just do it. This is part of your job. That's it. That's what you're paid to do. You're paid to do that on the field of play. And then commentators are paid to do their bit. If you're playing shit or not doing what you should be doing, you should be able to expect that criticism as well. He hasn't done enough. He's got a leadership responsibility within the team as well. I think Vicario's done more than he has on the field of play.
Rich, you are definitely the Spurs Chat podcast version of Roy Keane. Definitely.
I am today. I don't know what's got into me.
Ricky, at a half-time, how are you feeling? And were you expecting changes at half-time from Postecoglou?
I mean, again, to coin the phrase, I was frustrated at halftime. With that flurry at the end, I was just like, "Oh, come on, what's going to happen here?" So yes, I was expecting changes at some point. When I looked at the bench and I saw who was on it, I did expect Kulu, Spence, and Sonny to come on and try and influence and take back this game. So yeah, that's how I felt at halftime, bro. Very much similar to you guys.
After 51 minutes, Doku went close to making it 2-0, cutting in, shooting just past the top right corner. On 54 minutes, Savinho cutting in, shooting, and it deflected wide. On 56 minutes, a chance for Spurs, Pedro Porro crossing in, and Odegaard shooting just wide. So many in the stadium thought it was in. Ricky, I know you're a big fan of Wilson Odegaard. What have you made of his time at Spurs so far, of what we have seen, and are you excited about the future?
I can only really chat about it since he's come back because, the small sample size that we had before he got injured, I can't really say much. And there's so much has happened. I've kind of forgot it. But ever since he's come back in, he looks exciting. He looks dynamic. He looks like that bit of pace that we've actually needed, raw pace. He can dribble. You can see that he likes a trick and I'm just excited for what's to come for him. I didn't think he'd done too bad. I think he had some openings today, and especially in the first 10 or so minutes, he had a couple of openings where they were just letting him go. So I think exciting times to come from him. But remember that he's just come back from a very long injury, and that the more minutes and the more he can gain confidence within himself and in his body, and kind of handle those intense minutes coming up, I think the better for us.
Ricky, let's stay with you. On 57 minutes, Pedro Porro, another good cross in, and it was definitely a much better start and a much better period of the game for Spurs in the second half. It was cleared away by Ederson. 3 minutes later, Danso header Ederson, and then 66 minutes gone, Odegaard to Tell, who missed. What have you made of Tell in a Spurs shirt so far? Because Postecoglou in the pre-match press conference ahead of this game said, you can't expect too much. He's 19. He needs game time. He needs fitness. I know Richard probably don't want to hear that. But what have you made of him so far? Because I feel like we've seen a very lively Matisse Tell, but a lot of criticism aimed at, this young player so far, so early on in his Spurs career already.
Yeah, I mean, again, he is 19. He has transferred from another league. He is a player of high potential. He wasn't getting many. I don't think he got any 90 minutes starts at Bayern. He was coming off the bench, to what I remember. And so, he's been thrown in the deep end. He's had 90 minutes after 90 minutes, and you can see that he's got a lot of energy. You can see that he's working hard, and it's going to take time. And it will take time for him. He's as raw as a lot of the players that we've got there. But at the same time, I was having this conversation with Darren Hart the other day about Dane Scarlett. Dane Scarlett's roughly the same age. I think he's 19 as well. He's had some game time at Oxford this year. He's come in, has contributed. He has bulked up a lot as well. So when we're looking for a player to hold up the ball, and maybe get a head on it from across, maybe he's a stronger option right now. But, Tell is getting that game time. But he was brought in to cover the front three because, we had Richarlison and Solanke out. We didn't know about our wingers. Johnson was out at the time. Odegaard was still out at the time that we signed him. So there was a lot of gaps in the squad. Ever since Tell's come in, it's not been easy for him. It's been quite tough. He started out on the left, wasn't getting much joy out there, was trying to beat a man, and we can see he's got a turn of pace, and like I say, he can dribble, but he was getting read a lot by the opposition defenders when he was on the left. When he transferred into the middle, he looked a lot more dangerous, and that's where he got his goal, I think, against Villa. And then we've seen him centre forward a couple of other times, since then. And he's found it difficult. It's a very hard task to be our number 9, and because of the way that we play. And some has been on service as well. He hasn't got a lot, but some of the service that he has got, he's snapped at. So I'm with Ange in the sense of don't judge him too harshly, too quickly. I think I think there's a difference between fitness and match fitness. We've seen that many a time with injuries and stuff like that. And like I say, this boy's never had any 90 minutes. So I think there's a really good player in there, but I think there's a lot of hope and expectation because of the potential transfer fee. But at the same time, you've got to look at him and go, he's still 19. He's still as old as Bergval's just turned 19. So give him a bit of time, let him find his feet. Just remember what Bergval, if you look at his trajectory and the way that we've upped his minutes, and obviously through injury, he's had to be relied upon a lot more in a 90-minute game. But you can see how much growth that he's had over this period of time, and over going through the fire. And I think Tell's going to have that type of journey as well. I think this is a difficult journey right now, but as soon as he finds the flow, and as soon as everybody knows where his runs are and how to play with him, I think he could be good. Really good.
Go on, Rich.
Yeah, I think he's not been protected enough, I think, as a young player. I think he's been brought off when he's not had a great game. I'd like to have seen him come off the bench a little bit more, and then also not just playing that one central position. I know a lot of people have said that he's better coming off the wing, or at least kind of within the game, actually switch him around a little bit and give him a little bit of a dynamic approach to the actual Premier League in both those positions. But I think that kind of those 50-50 challenges I've seen today, there must have been 6 or 7 times when he was going in for the press and he didn't really commit to it. He kind of half committed, and then because of that, like when Slanky goes in, he goes in hard, and he's not worried about catching the play or really kind of forcing the play backwards. He's kind of going in tentatively. The ball's moving 2 or 3 times. He's then out of position, and then because that press isn't from the front by that player, it does affect the play behind him. I think Ange should really protect him, like you say as well. Maybe Dane having a game up there and kind of actually take your opportunity, kid. You know what I mean? It's like you've come through the academy. The fans are going to love you starting. That's it. Just go for it. Just have a game and let's see what you can actually do. I think throwing a player from a different league straight into the starting 11 for the amount of time it has, I think he might need it to have a little bit of from the bench, watching the game, kind of viewing that game from the bench, then coming on and making that real impact.
I suppose, Rich, it's fair to say that is probably going to be the case when Dominic Solanke comes back, and then he's going to be that fresh player to come on with the energy. But what I've seen of him so far, he's got great energy. Certainly in the games that he's played so far.
For sure. I agree.
Craig, let's come to you. On 67 minutes, Ange Postecoglou, it looked like he was going to make 3 subs, and then the subs waited there for a good 5 minutes to come on, and then he thought, okay, we'll bring Sarr on as well. So it was 4 subs in the end, all at once. Son, Sarr, Kulusevski, Spence, all coming on. Tel, Bentancur, Odegaard, and Udogie coming off. What did you make of the change at that time? Because it's fair to say that we've been very complimentary about Ange Postecoglou's subs in the last couple of podcasts recently.
Yeah, I mean, you could. Everyone's probably got their own opinion on it, but for me, I'd have took Johnson off. I just thought he was quite ineffective today, and possibly Porro as well. Even though he's obviously trying to manage Udogie's minutes, so that was probably understandable. But then again, like you said, we haven't had a game. We haven't got a game for 8 days now. So could we have pushed Udogie a little bit more? He didn't seem to be knackered because he'd done a 50-yard sprint up the pitch with the ball just before he come off. So, but look, I haven't got the figures. None of us have about players in red zones and all this sort of malarkey they go on about today. So, but like I say, I'd have personally took Johnson off. I thought Johnson was ineffective. Didn't think Tel did much. And obviously Odegaard again coming back from injury, so I can understand that one. You could argue Ange got this team selection wrong tonight. We don't know. Nobody knows because you can't go back in time and change it. But I can see why he did. He picked the team he picked tonight. I just don't think that front three performed well enough tonight. I don't think the whole team performed well enough tonight, but certainly the front three can do better, and we should be demanding more of them as well.
Rich, just come to you. After 69 minutes, Spurs had a chance through Sarr, which the chance was blocked. On 75 minutes, Brennan Johnson crossed to Kulusevski. Kulusevski was screaming for it earlier, wanted an earlier ball played, but he didn't get it. On 81 minutes, Timo Werner came on. James Maddison went off. Phil Foden then had a shot deflected wide on 83 minutes. And then Brennan Johnson set up Heung-min Son. A fantastic chance for Spurs on 84 minutes, save by Ederson. What did you make of Brennan Johnson's performance? What have you made of him this season?
Obviously, he's not much fit at the moment. And that sharpness, you could tell today. I think he's probably quite not ready. And I've always said that I think he's best when he comes off the bench, obviously with his pace, with his directness. And I don't know, they're just all around. I don't think the fans have really taken to him yet. He's got the ability, clearly got the ability. He's got eye for goal. And he was starting to show that. Then obviously got injured, and he took a bit of time coming back. I think today's game really showed that he's just quite not there. I think his touch was a bit heavy today. yes, he obviously delivered a couple of balls into the box, but he didn't have a great game. And going back to the opportunity for Son as well, I think obviously great hit, great save. I'm not sure if he was expecting that to go in and he wasn't expecting the second ball. It just looked like he was kind of veering towards a corner flag because he thought he was going in instead of actually kind of anticipating a save. And I think he would have had a tap in then. But that for me, I think that'd been a right injustice because we were actually 1-1 and Man City were all over us. I'm watching the comments around kind of for everybody that's been watching tonight and saying that a lot of people saying that we're in the game, very competitive for 90 minutes. Like Craig said, we could have been 3 down after 15 minutes, really, and they were all over us. I think we can't go through all games like that and just kind of saying that we lost 1-0 and we could have been in it because we had a couple of chances at the end.
But it was similar, Rich, at the weekend. You know, even though we beat Ipswich 4-1, we could have been 2 or 3 nil down very early on.
Yeah, Delap had, and I think again inexperience maybe, but from obviously Delap in the Ipswich team. I saw that game and I was like, "What am I seeing here? What am I actually seeing? Is this a Spurs team that we're going to have for the next couple of seasons? Because I'm not sure how it's improved."
But that's what I don't understand, though, Rich. Because historically, Andy's teams start like Liverpool have started over the years when they play at Anfield, like 100 mile an hour, come at you, go at you, go at you. But yet we can't seem to start games,
Confidence, though, isn't it? Like the players aren't confident. They're not. They're probably not confident with the style of play. They're not confident that if they're bomb forward, that they've got enough at the back. It's a real worry. And you're talking about is the manager a right fit for the club? Well, obviously, attacking wise, great, but defensively, that's terrible. Like terrible.
Even Glenn Hoddle come out and said about Ange Postecoglou and said, if you haven't got the right players or you haven't got the right personnel available to you, shore up the defence to make sure that you don't concede goals. But I feel like, all of us go on about the defensive side of our game, but I feel like all of us need to realise that this is what Ange does. It doesn't matter whether we concede a couple of goals because, his philosophy is, well, we'll go up the other end and we'll score more.
That's all right if you score the goals.
I'm not feeling that, though. I'm not feeling that.
Like the old Aussie Idealies days.
But there have been times over this period of time where he has adapted, where the fullbacks haven't been overlapping as much, where we've gone to a back three. He has tried to solidate. I can't say it. You know what I mean? But he has tried to do it. You know what I mean? By even putting two defensive midfield, two defensive, and I say that in quote marks because you know what I'm trying to say. But 2 defensive midfielders in front of that defense. So he has tried to shore it up and adapt. But I feel that in him having the pressure on him to adapt, and he has done it. That's been some of the times that I've hated what we've seen. Against Everton when we went to a back three, that was a mistake of his, and he tried to do something different, and he tried to to play that game and adapt and not play the Ange way, and it was horrendous. I want us to be yes, there has to be balance is key, not just in football but in life. So as much as we attack, we have to be ready to defend as well.
Manage the game, Ricky. Right? We need to manage the game properly.
But I love that we have that thing in us that it's like, we're going to go for you. We're going to go for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, I hate it when we sit back and try and counter sometimes. It's just because I've been traumatized over the years. That's all. So I like the fact that we go to fight.
Ricky, at the very end of the game, we thought that Spurs had conceded our second goal. Haaland again. Talk us through this goal. Talk us through the VAR decision, because while you're talking, I'm going to play a clip. You'll see Pep Guardiola and you'll also see Ange Postecoglou looking extremely frustrated. He also, for those people listening on audio, Ange Postecoglou questions the fourth official a number of times and says, "What's going on? Why is this taking so long?"
I mean, it was a crazy goal. It sprung out of nowhere. there was a few. I can't remember. There was a few slips, I think, as well, and the ball was bouncing, and he went through. And Archie Gray and Danso, they both went to attack the ball against Haaland, and it looked like it came off of Haaland's arm, but I could see where there was confusion because it looked like Archie Gray's shoulder was in there, but it also looked like Danzo's hand was in there at some point. So I could see where the confusion was. But with this whole debacle at the end, it's like what I was saying earlier, to go through the madness of checking on VAR when the referee has made the decision, and he must have let those VAR officials know that decision. So why spend the time? He's already said he's going to overrule it. Why spend the time doing that? Just get on with it, right? And then after spending that whole amount of time, getting the commentators confused, thinking that it's been given, and then it hasn't been given from what we're seeing at home. And then suddenly we go on a break and nearly score ourselves, but we don't get the extra time that we just lost in extra time. So it was a bit, manic. And I know what the boss is like. We know how much he hates VAR and those tactical fouls that just slow down the game. When we've got a free kick every 2 minutes, he hates that. And VAR and those cynical fouls that we end up conceding, slow our game down, slow our rhythm down, and disrupt us. And it disrupts him. So I can see he really wasn't happy with that.
I'm amazed that Ange Postecoglou's post-match presser is only 5.5 minutes, and the journalist didn't ask him all about VAR because, as you've mentioned there, Ricky, he absolutely hates it. Craig, lastly, talking about this evening's game, Pape Matar with a glorious chance at the end.
Yeah, Sonny just got a nick to it, and he was running. I wouldn't say he's running at full pace, but he was obviously on the move, and it was just above him, just sort of behind. He had to adjust his head position last minute. In my opinion, still should be getting that on target. I'll be very disappointed he didn't, but that would have really been nicking a result. Can you imagine if that, the goal's been disallowed? Which the referee did from the start, actually disallowed it. I didn't realise. Apparently he disallowed the goal and VAR were checking, if it had been handball and it was clear that, it wasn't a clear contact. So go with the on-field decision. But Pep would have been fuming about that had that gone in. But it wasn't to be.
You probably saw at the end, Craig, that there are a number of Spurs players surrounding the referee at the very end of the game, and Matt Wells was chasing the referee and the other match officials down the tunnel at the end. Why do you think that was? Because obviously the goal was disallowed. Was it about the other instance in the game?
God knows. No idea. No idea. It could have been. It could have been the time, but the thing is, when Haaland scored, there wasn't long left anyway. So, after that debacle of VAR, we didn't have long left anyway. So,
yeah. Right. Lastly, and we're going to keep this very short because it is very, very late, and we're going to do a preview show for the AZ Alkmaar game. But of course, we are back in the Europa League, last 16. First leg in Holland. Of course, I'll be flying out to Amsterdam on Thursday, going to this game. Really looking forward to it. Let's hope that we can go all the way to the final to Bilbao. Rich, let's start with you. Last 16, away leg first against AZ. Of course, we've played them already in the Europa League this season, beating them 1-0 with Richarlison scoring. And when we look at the March fixtures, we're only playing 4 games, 2 in the Premier League, a home against Bournemouth, away against Fulham, and 2 games in the Europa League, of course, the home leg and the away leg against AZ. So not a very busy March, which is great in terms of getting players back. And Postecoglou's already said that he hopes that Solanke, Van de Ven and Romero are all back for the home leg against AZ, which would be great news. What are you thinking ahead of next Thursday's game?
You'd want to take something back to our stadium, wouldn't you? You'd want a 1-0. I think a clean sheet solid performance. Obviously, they're going to come with a lot of pressure to try and obviously have something to try and defend the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I think for me, I think we might have just a little bit too much for them, and I think we will score. And I just hope that we kind of are really patient with that, don't overcommit, and let them in behind early, and give them something to defend. I'd like to think that we'll be quite disciplined, and we won't go for it like all guns blazing, but we actually realise it's over 2 legs. So I think for me, it's another 1-0 to us.
What have you made of AZ though, Rich? Because it seemed quite a straightforward game earlier on in the season for us, but of course in the previous round they beat Galatasaray over 2 legs.
I think obviously when you've got that inconsistency, but obviously you look at their league position, I think they're 4th, and shows that they're obviously very competitive, but I think they're just lacking that consistency. I think they're going to be up for the game, but also realise that they want to kind of right some wrongs with obviously us beating them 1-0 before. Obviously they've got a threat, and they're obviously able to beat some of the bigger teams, like Galatasaray, and they'll fancy themselves to beat us over 2 legs. But I think they'll expect, if they're going to go through, that they're going to take something into the away leg to try and defend. So to have a clean sheet at their ground, even if it was a 0-0, I think would be a positive, taking it back to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I'm going to, like I say, stick with my 1-0 prediction.
Well, that'd be a good result. I'll tell you what, any away game in Europe, no matter what competition it is very difficult. Ricky,
Sure.
How are you feeling ahead of this one?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm super excited for it. Obviously, this is the cup that we want. You know, this is the last cup that we're in. Everything kind of hangs on this European journey and this trophy hunt. So I can't wait for it. I love playing against Dutch sides. I love Dutch sides growing up, and you know, AZ have been playing really well. They've got a massive threat in our old youngster in Troy Parrott, who's been on fire. I think he scored 17 goals this season already, and so he's been on fire. They do remind me of a Bournemouth, an Ipswich in the way in which they press and play. So it's not gonna, it's not gonna all go our way, but we should have the quality, and I see us coming out victorious. I'm gonna go. Do you know what, Scott? I'm going to go with Scotty, who just dropped a comment in. I was going to say 3-1, but I'm going to go 3-0. Scotty, Herbert, me and you, Sunshine. I'm going to go 3-0 Tottenham. Come on, you Spurs.
Ricky, is there a danger of a lot of Spurs fans just thinking that this competition is going to be easy to win? Because we know any European games are difficult, especially away from home.
No, I think, it's not going to be, I don't care what the names are. It's not going to be easy. I remember us losing a game with Mourinho in charge where their manager was in jail. Like, there's been, do you know what I mean? It's like, there's been crazy things that have happened.
How did he smuggle the phone in? How did he smuggle the phone in jail?
Well, we can't go into that. I mean, it's past the watershed, but we can't go into that right now. But so crazy things have happened. Many a time that we've shot ourselves in the foot. Many a time that without the pressure being honest, we've put it on ourselves, and things have not happened. But it's not going to be easy. It's not a given that we're going to go out there and win it. There are many hurdles out there. It's not just the Dutch sides that are in it, but Real. So any Spanish side that you play, they've always got a kind of hoodoo and magic with these European trophies. So you want to avoid them as much as you can, but it's there for us, and everything, all of our strengths are going to be put into it. So we do have Romero, a World Cup winner, coming back. We do have Mickey Super Van der Ven coming back. We are going to be stronger with Solanke and potentially Richarlison coming off the bench, and having more options that way. We are going to be dangerous with having pace come off the bench in Odegaard and, let's say, Tell or that it is going to look a lot rosier. But I think we're going to be putting, our focus on that, and I think that's a good thing, because there's been many a time that we've let a top four finish or finishing in the top four be more important than a cup run. But this year is flipped. So let's go, man. Let's go. It's not going to be easy. We are going to go through it. There are going to be harrowing times. Yes, there is. But I see us coming out, especially this round, victorious.
Ricky, lastly for you, and we've not mentioned this on the podcast in the last couple of days, that if Chelsea win their games in the Europa Conference League and both Spurs and Chelsea are through to the next rounds, the quarterfinals and semi-finals, Spurs would then end up playing the away leg second in these games, and Chelsea would be at home at Stamford Bridge for their second legs. This seems extremely unfair, that the fact that we are in a better competition than Chelsea. I'll tell you what, why does this happen to us?
Because we're Tottenham, mate. I don't know. Chelsea have had all the money, they've had all the influence. I can't believe how some of their fans call their board and their management unambitious. There's so many things that go for them and go for everybody else apart from us. We have been the only side that have been kicked out of a competition because of COVID. Do you know what I mean? Like we didn't even play. So it always happens to us. It always makes me roll my eyes, because I can't believe that another something has happened and it's gone against us. And
Why
especially
is
with
it?
it being Chelsea, man. Like, it's always Chelsea. Do you remember when they were supposed to lose at Bayern Munich and we were supposed to go to the Champions League and then they ended up winning? Do you know what I mean? And it's always the way. I think somebody up in those offices like to take the Berties out of us and like to make us the butt of the joke, more times than we are, and I don't know. It just always ends up being the way.
Well, Craig, I feel a thoughts of the day coming on.
Why is it? Why is that? Why have Chelsea got the nod over us if they get through? I don't understand.
Well, good question.
Has anybody actually explained why? Because I don't know. I don't know.
We don't know. We don't know why. Because if you're in a better competition, surely you get the preference.
Surely.
You should do. You should.
I'll tell you, there always seems to be something that, like when the away goals rule in the League Cup, that was scrapped, and it's like we would have gone through. It's just honestly, you couldn't write all this stuff.
No.
Craig, lastly with you, AZ Alkmaar next Thursday.
They're not going to be a pushover, like you said. There's no easy games in Europe, and the AZ home game that I went to that game. I was bored to tears. I thought it was one of the worst games of football I ever watched, to be honest with you. It's going to be a tough game. Troy Parrott going to want to score against us. I think I'll keep it short. I think it's going to be 1-1, and I think we'll probably come back to we will come back to our stadium and beat them in the second leg. But I think it's going to be a draw out in the Netherlands.
Craig, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I know it's been a late one, so thank you so much for all of your time and input on the podcast recently. Where can people find you on social media, what you're up to, and tell everyone about your thoughts of the day videos if they haven't seen them?
Yeah, thoughts of the day. Yeah, on the channel in the short section. So just talk about a myriad of different subjects. Obviously, all Spurs related, but yeah, give them a watch. You might like them, you might not, but there you go. At Dearman 9 on X. Some people don't like them, but I don't care. At Dearman 9 on X if you want to give me a follow.
There's been a lot of people who love the videos, Craig. Keep up the great work. And Ricky, thank you so much for coming back, and we look forward to seeing you next time. What are you up to at the moment? And are you going to make a return to EastEnders sometime soon with all these people being killed off?
You never know with EastEnders. You never know. They've done tremendous as well. I've got to give a big shout out to them for their 40th birthday. I thought that, the whole Vic blowing up. I thought there were some tremendous performances from Steve McFadden, who plays Phil, Lacey Turner, who plays Stacey. James Bye, who on the live ended up passing away. Not in real life, just in the show. But I thought there was really some really tremendous performances, and the live went seamless. There was no mistakes. There was no nothing. It was really, really good. So well done to them guys. They know where I am if they want to find me, old EastEnders. But I am just keeping busy and focusing on what's in front. There's been a couple of auditions, but like I say, when there's something to say, I'll let you know. But what I would say out to everybody is that my favorite ever player, ever, David Ginola, has just done a podcast on Tottenham Hotspur's channel as well. And he spends an hour speaking about life at Tottenham. And oh my gosh, it was amazing. Just to see his face, firstly, it was amazing. And, watching it brought back all of the memories of why I loved him and why he's my favorite ever player. And you get some insight into his history and how he grew up and into some of the stuff that he went through with his heart condition as well. And yeah, really great watch for all of you Tottenham fans and Ginola lovers.
It's not only that. What did you get your mum and dad to call you sister?
Yeah, so her middle name is Ginola. So I call her Ginola all the time. It's on her birth certificate and everything. It's on her license, So yeah, so I get to phone my Ginola. So when I phone, I'm like, yeah, you're at Ginola. Yeah, how's your day been? Da, 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 da. So yeah, I get to speak to Ginola nearly every day.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rick. Thank you so much. And
my pleasure.
Richard, just so we can see a trophy or two, let's have a look at one of your medals. Come on. Love it.
Come on.
Rich, so what's next for you? What's the next marathon?
So I'm actually doing one in Windsor next Saturday, and it's called The Original. It was once ran in 1908, and it's just been reignited. So it's first marathon in the UK. It's Windsor. There's about 400, 500 people running it. So normally it's thousands, like when I was doing Dubai and Miami and obviously Malta earlier. So this is a slightly smaller race, but as important because it's one of the 20 that I'm doing this year. So yeah, 20 marathons in a year. Crazy, I know.
When is that, Rich? This weekend?
It's next weekend.
I was going to say, because Craig and Ricky could have joined you, because we haven't got a game this weekend.
That's it's not near watching.
Rich, you're the man, mate. You're the man. How you do that is amazing, bro. Keep going. Keep that fire burning, bro. No fatigue for you, bro. You just keep going, bro. Knock it out of the park. Blows my mind.
Mate, one thing I will say that a couple of the guys did mention in the comments around like marathons and like professional football is different as being an athlete, and I would like to address it that being an athlete and it isn't just about running. It's about athlete mentality. It's about the kind of commitment, desire, resilience. It's about all those things that comes to one, and then you have a performance. And then whether it's running, whether it's team game, it's about kind of giving 100%. And then when you put that shirt on, whether it's a GB tracksuit or whether it's a Tottenham shirt, giving 110%. And I think that's probably what I'm seeing that is lacking at the moment. But I believe in the team, and I know there's brighter things to come. And the fans have a massive part of that, like we alluded to right at the start of the show. That 12th fan that obviously is the spectators is so important, and we need to galvanise that. And like Craig was saying about bringing back obviously the drum and stuff, and Ricky mentioned it, and I think it's important because at the moment the stadium itself is a little bit up and down, and together we can be stronger. And that's what I was trying to say earlier about kind of professional athletes have got that desire to be the best, but the athletes need to actually show that as well. So the footballers need to show it on the field of play.
Rich, just before we do let you go, tell everyone about the documentary that you've got out.
Yeah, Dare to Defy is on Prime Video, and that's with Adele Roberts, the Radio 1 DJ. Awesome character, like close friend of mine. It's definitely worth a watch. It's about kind of challenging the perceptions of kind of not just disability, but also minority groups and some of the challenges and obstacles. I know there'll be individuals that are obviously watching and listening that are going through some of those challenges. Definitely go and watch it. It's a 3-part documentary that really does challenge some of those perceptions. And let me know what you think as well.
Yeah, I've watched it and can thoroughly recommend it. Absolutely brilliant series. Keep up the great work, Rich. Always great to have you on here.
Thanks for your support. And also everybody subscribe.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks so much for all of your support, everyone. Craig, Ricky, Richard, you've been great this evening. I know that we couldn't get the win or a draw this evening, but we will be back very soon. Craig and I will be doing a fan show on Saturday. If any of you would like to get involved in that, please do send me an email, tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com. We'll book you in, and hopefully we'll talk to you at the weekend about all things Tottenham Hotspur. And
is that only fans, or is that a fan show?
I don't expect that from you. I'll leave the only fans to Ricky Norwood.
Gary.
Now
I was just about to say Gary.
You know what I mean?
Gary will do it.
Right, it's time to get to bed. Craig, Ricky, Richard, thank you so much. And thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. And we will see you on the next one. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on.